So it doesn't take a genius to conclude that what's going on with the Vancouver Canucks right now is pretty bad. If you hadn't been paying attention, we had ourselves recently radio interviews done with Jim Rutherford, president of hockey operations of the Vancouver Canucks, where the guy pretty much just went out there and threw Bruce Boudreau under the bus. Here's an article on sportsnet.ca. Rutherford again criticizes the Canucks structure and says that something has to be fixed. This article was published earlier yesterday, and it goes over all the comments that Rutherford made on Canucks Central with Dan Riccio and Satyr Shah. Take a look at a lot of the quotes over here. He would have expected better from Boudreau and his players. In order for us to become a better team, we have to play with a stronger system and really be more accountable for some things that some players are struggling with, Rutherford said. We're at a point now where we have to make players more accountable, and we have to take the necessary steps to get players' attention. Asked if he had the right personnel behind the bench with Boudreau at the helm to have that accountability and structure, Rutherford did not directly answer, nor did he defend his head coach. When we talk to the coaches, we stress it. I do believe that the style that the team played that had success in the second half of last season was a loose style and more on the offensive side, and our goaltender played great and really helped win a lot of those games or bail us out in wide open games. I don't believe that's the style of play that you could sustain over a long period of time if you want to contend for a playoff spot. He also said that the fact that the Vancouver Canucks, it's happened so many times for them in this short period of time, it's a major concern and something that has to be fixed. This isn't the first time that Rutherford has called out the Canucks structure. The 73-year-old told John Garrett and Scott Oaken after hours back on October 23rd, we have to play within a stronger structure to make that game easier for all of our players. He also said, if we were playing a real strong structure, it would make it easier for our defense to play, and it wouldn't matter who was on our defense. But right now, we don't have that structure, and we need to change the makeup of our defense. Now, that comment is very weird, if I do say so myself. Oh, if we were playing a stronger structure, then it doesn't matter who's on our defense, but we don't have that structure right now, so now we need to change who's on our defense. Does that not sound a little bit contradictory to you? How he's saying one thing and then kind of contradicting himself the next sentence? I'm not really too sure. We need to make it younger, Rutherford said. We took a step forward there when we finally were able to get Ethan Bear. We worked at that deal for a few months, but we didn't have the cap space and finally got creative enough that we could do it. When a D-man comes along like it did in the offseason, we were in on, or just about every one of those players that moved to another team, but there were always some circumstance that meant we could not get them. Now, this comment or two is very interesting. How Rutherford pretty much goes out there and throws under the bus the structure and the way that this team goes out there and assembles their guys, not necessarily the players themselves, but the system that they play. And it is kind of interesting seeing both sides of the same coin, because when Rutherford goes out there and publicly airs out his issues with the team, it almost always goes back to the coaching. Pretty much what these comments are, they're a criticism of the coaching. And I mean, a lot of Canucks fans went out there and defended Bruce Boudreau, saying, hey, no, it's not necessarily the structure. I mean, the team that he's playing with. They suck. Fix the defense, why don't you, Rutherford, before complaining about the defense? And while I don't necessarily think that the structure has been the problem per se, because as we have seen throughout certain segments of this season, certain first periods and certain 21-minute segments in these games here, the Canucks, when they're on, they are very on, and they look very good. It's just, I don't necessarily know if it's structure that causes them to blow leads after having very good opening 20-minute segments. You know, like, they have a structure that's good enough that they can play well and that they can outscore opponents, and then they just blow it all away. I don't know if the blowing it all away part is something that Bruce Boudreau actively teaches his team to do, but I wouldn't say that's part of the structure. I feel like that's just the guys in the room underperforming. I don't know. Anyways, when it comes to the response here, this is what Bruce Boudreau replied. When it comes to the JR comments, it's my 47th year, and I've seen a lot of things. I'll just add it to the book that I'll never write. Listen, I'm not going to get into an argument over whether we do or whether we don't play with enough structure. We play as hard as we can, as well as we can, and we lay it all out on the line every night. And a lot of replies to this Drance tweet say, "No you don't, that's cap, go home Bruce," and I'm just kind of reading what the immediate replies say here. A lot of Canucks fans don't buy it, because, I mean, this team definitely doesn't play their best for 60-minute segments every night, so I don't know, man. Right now, the way the Canucks front office is, you could definitely see a pattern here with Jim Rutherford. Whenever there's something going on with this team that's potentially like an internal conflict or whatever, he always goes to the media, and he always says what's going on. Well, not directly, but sort of subliminally. He kind of hints at it and says, yeah, no, like, this is the thing with the team, this is the problem that the team has. He talked about it with Bo Horvat contract extension talk as well. He kind of said, hey, if we are not able to re-sign Bo, then we're just gonna have to hope he keeps scoring so we can improve his trade value. Like, stuff like that. Jim Rutherford, I notice he really is direct with the media when it comes to getting the desired outcome in his own personal, well, not in his own personal, but in the party of the Canucks' own mindset of things. We also had some other news from Rick Dhaliwal confirming on his show this morning what a lot of us already knew, that Travis Green's $2.7 million owed this year is a big factor in why Boudreau is still the coach. Because Aquaman does not want to go out there and pay Travis Green, Bruce Boudreau, and which other coach ends up getting hired all at the same time, because when you fire the coach still has to get paid, and Green and Boudreau are both on the payroll, which means that adding another body into the mix is something that Aquilini does not want to do. He doesn't want to pay 3 coaches at the same time, which is why they just kind of have to stick around with the coach they already have. And it's kind of awkward because now you're going out there and criticizing the coach and his systems directly in the public to a Vancouver market that is an absolute group of sharks when they can be. This is what Cody said on Twitter that I really did like. Wanted to read it over here. Cody always has some nice takes. Man, the public critique of Boudreau's style makes this front office look really stupid in my opinion. Like, they extended Miller to a giant-ass extension based on his counting stats that only exploded while playing under Boudreau's loosey-goosey system. So, which is it? Under Travis Green, Miller was at a .92 points per game. Under Boudreau, he was at a 1.38, and he had 76 points. Did they really bet $8 million a season on a guy who they hope can replicate his career year production rate with a completely different coach and play style? That's quite the gamble. There are more tweets in this thread, but ultimately Cody says this: it's clear to me, in his opinion, that the issue with the team isn't coaching, but the roster itself. Like, a healthy scratch from Carolina defaulted as the team's second-best D-man when they acquired him. Doesn't seem all too great. And so, I don't want to go out there and say that Jim Rutherford is, like, completely out to lunch here, but then again, if you have a different coach, let's say it's a different coach with a different system, I don't know if this team is necessarily better or worse. This team and the problems that they have happen to be their consistency, not necessarily their structure. As we said, when they score and they dominate periods, they look really good, and we know that's what they're capable of. We had seen that last season. So, I don't know if structure is really it. I don't know if Jim Rutherford is really it. I don't know if Boudreau is really it. But at the end of the day, we have news that this road trip, this right here, starting out today with the Ottawa Senators at 4 p.m. PST, this could be defining for the year. If they blow some more leads and they continue to refuse to win, and I'm going to use that verb, to refuse, because that's kind of what they were doing the past few games, especially against Nashville. It's like they refused to win that game. If they continue doing this, then I'm very intrigued to seeing what happens, because even though the Vancouver Canucks have had some downer years over the years, it was never like this, where they were supposed to be a playoff contender, they were supposed to be top 3 in the Pacific, and now they're absolutely crapping the bed. Bottom team in the league right now? We'll see what Rutherford, Alvin, Castonguay, Granada, we'll see what they all decide to do. But either way, talk to the comments your thoughts about Rutherford calling out his coach, Boudreau firing back, and how the team pretty much is only sticking around with Boudreau because they don't want to pay 3 coaches, and that really is just Aquilini's fault because he's the guy writing the payroll at the end of the month, or every quarter, excuse me. That's how a business works here in Canada, is it not? Talk to the comments your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.